Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Mid-Sussex District Council Cabinet. Before we get started, I'll read the safety announcement. So the building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Follow the green signs to the assembly point, which is the large staff car park opposite the main entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after others have left, and do not return to the building until it's safe to do so. You're told that by an authorised officer. And if I can remind members, please, to switch mobile phones to silent. So welcome to this Cabinet meeting, and welcome to members of the Council who've joined us today. For the benefit of members of the public watching the live stream, I'm Councillor Jonathan Ashedwith, the Leader of the Council. To my right and in front of me are members of the Council's Cabinet. To my left are members of the Council's Senior Management Team who will be assisting us with our meeting today. So the first item on the agenda is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Are there any declarations, please, colleagues? The Hillier.
Thank you. In relation to items 6 and 10. It's only a personal interest, but it's probably appropriate in relation to item 6 as a member and committee member at Mid-Sussex Hockey Club. I have an interest in what's going on there. Thank you.
See any other members who've indicated? So item 2 is to receive apologies for absence. I don't think we've got any. I think everyone is present. Actually, we've got apologies from the Chief Executive. Actually, we should have noted. Item 3, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of February, which have been circulated. Are we all happy to agree those as a correct record of that meeting? Thank you very much. That is agreed. Mr. Stewart, you've indicated you wanted to speak.
Sorry. For the next item, Chairman.
Next item. Thank you. Item 4, to consider any items the Leader agrees to take as urgent business. Mr. Stewart. Next item after that. Fine, I haven't got any other items then, if there aren't any. So item 5 is the capital programme update. So I'll come to Peter Stewart, the Head of Corporate Resources.
Thank you, Chairman. That is my item. Yes, we're bringing forward an amendment, an update to the capital programme. Of course, you appreciate the capital programme only came before Council on the 2nd of March. Sometimes these projects do take a little bit longer than anticipated to come to a point where they are, quote, oven ready. But we have 4 projects here before you for adoption today and inclusion in the capital programme, one of which my colleague Mr Anderton will talk about later in the agenda. That would be the Centre for Outdoor Sport. But the other 3 are ready for adoption under this item. Of course, the first one is around the Hill Place Farm suitable alternative natural green space, which will in time enable development to commence and continue in East Grinstead. The third item is around the orchards and improving the toilet provision in the orchards. I don't know, Chairman, if you're familiar with the facilities at the orchards. They are, I think, substandard. They have been substandard for some time, and we really need to do better for our WC provision. So this item brings forward, with some, hopefully with some pace, a modular toilet, including a changing places provision, which effectively is built off-site and craned in. Now, we've been working at quite, some pace on this item. I need to make a correction to the report at it's paragraph 13. It's sort of a second paragraph added onto paragraph 13, the one that starts the cost of this option. We think it will naturally be nearer the 190 than the £160,000, I'm afraid, mainly because it's actually a proper building that's being built and it requires a proper base and decent drainage and those kinds of works, which again will be tendered quickly to make this happen during the summer. So, as I say, that paragraph should be saying nearer £190,000. Of course, there's a consequent change then to Table 1, the paragraph 17, to that 160 will become 190, and there'll be consequent changes in paragraph 18. I won't go through the figures, it just adds on £30,000 to all those. And then finally, we have a project, a very worthy project for Hickman's Lane Pavilion. Again, I don't know if you know Hickman's Lane Pavilion building. It is looking a little tired. It doesn't appear to be serving the uses of either party, or any party that use it particularly well. So it seems quite sensible to be able to invest some money into that building to make it better for all those who use it. Again, we have, if you're happy to take the amendment to the capital programme, Chairman, we have effectively earmarked £50,000 from the General Reserve, which should then unlock other funding to come forward once people know that the building will be provided. So I think there we have three ready-to-go amendments to the capital updates, I should say, to the capital programme, with one to be talked about later in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Stewart. Colleagues, I open the floor up to those members who wish to speak. Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chairman. I suppose the first comment that I would like to make is that one of the benefits coming out of the Hill Place Farm development, apart from the fact, of course, that 200 families will be provided with homes in that development, is that there's going to be a cash up payment of £692,500 to the Bluebell Railway, which is a real benefit to the economy of Mid-Sussex as well, because it does improve the tourism offer. And then, of course, the orchards improved toilet provision. I think I recall it was probably 5 or 6 years ago that we first started talking about changing places, and we funded a changing places facility in East Grinstead at the Jubilee Centre. And of course, all of the leisure centres have changing places facilities in them as well, which I'm very pleased about. And finally, I think the addition of £50,000 from general reserves to improve the fundraising options for the Hickman's Lane Pavilion is to be welcomed, and I will certainly be supporting that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. Councillor Demir.
Thank you. Well, actually, Councillor Webster just more or less said what I was going to say. No worries. Because I think for the Hill Place Farm, ensuring that the Bluebell Railway continues to be the success and the tourism attraction to Mid-Sussex is absolutely essential. So I'm really pleased to see that. The orchards, yes, they are disgusting, to be perfectly honest, and I'm really glad to see that we're doing. I didn't understand one tiny thing, Mr. Stewart. You were saying that the costs had risen. I thought these were pods as such that could then be moved when anything else happens in the orchards. Did I misconstrue that? The extra costs. And the other thing I was going to say was that I think the Hickman's Lane Pavilion is definitely well worth spending 50,000 on, given that we're getting all the rest of the money. So that's it. I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, of course, the price of the pod is fixed when you order it from the manufacturer. It's the bits that we require to do ourselves, such as the demolition of the toilets, making good there, and particularly the base and the drainage, where tendering will be required. And I think these days, most people are thinking that costs are on the up rather than the down. So we're making provision, adequate provision, so we don't have to come back and tell you we've overspent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman. Broadly very supportive of this. Certainly related to the orchard, you're absolutely right. Some decent toilets are long overdue in the centre of Haywards Heath. And I think when I was Cabinet Member at West Sussex for Children's Services, I had families had approaching me, I think it's probably 2017, saying, please, 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 can we have a changing places facility in the centre of Havens Heath? So very, very welcome. I just got a question on the Hickman's Lane, and again, I'm very supportive of this. I'm someone who used and played there too many decades ago, and it was tired back then. So very welcome to see this indeed. My question, though, is within the works that are proposed, are we also doing things to try and improve its energy rating, i.e. insulation, etc., is the kind of stuff that we probably really should be doing as the SCS strategy comes forward? Okay.
Very pertinent question, Chairman, and of course the answer would be, I think the strict answer would be that the modifications to the building, the refurbishment of the building will be to modern building control standards. I mean, if members want to go further than that, I think it will, of course, increase the budget. It could be a worthwhile thing, but something perhaps to be considered when we put in for the planning application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll let you and the portfolio holder consider that one further in more detail. I'll turn now to Councillor Pilsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Just further to the comments, just in terms of the Hill Place Farm, yes, great news for the Bluebell Railway to be able to, that was able to support them so much, but also good news for residents in East Grinstead as a whole, because although those units were, opposed by, the 200 units were opposed by us as a council and then overturned on appeal, whilst it does indeed allow 200 families to live in East Grinstead, I think actually securing the SANG is also vital for East Grinstead, and it was another green lung in the town, which is very welcome, and I'm sure residents were pleased to see the certainty that that is now moving forward. So very pleased to see that, echoing the comments of others regarding the need for modern toilet facilities in the centre of Havens Heath, and share the comments as well just regarding Hickman's Lane Pavilion. As a cabinet member now with sort of responsibility with sports clubs and organisations and pavilions, I'm already getting a lot of emails from sports clubs regarding their facilities, and I know where we can make improvements. They're really supported by the communities that use them, so I'm very pleased to see that come forward too. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Salisbury.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to note on the Hickman's Lane that a combination of the S106 funding and the support of the Football Federation has enabled that project to come forward, with the council adding the additional funds. It goes to show how working in partnership really does bring benefits for our residents. Thank you.
I completely agree, and I think this report is a good example of us bringing forward projects that really matter to our local communities, and quite a wide range. Certainly in relation to the Hickman's Lane Pavilion, I know as the ward member that's been going on for quite a while as a project, and as I think Mr. Stewart said, the users there really all quite unhappy with how it works and how it functions, and lots of use in terms of the nursery and the junior football club and the cricket club as well. So I know they'll be pleased in having some more space to utilise and a better configuration, as well as Councillor Salisbury says, some inward investment being secured from the Football Federation as well, which is always very positive to see. I think members have been very clear around the need to improve the toilets in Haywards Heath, and Councillor Cromie's done a lot of work with local residents and community groups on this, both in terms of us bringing forward a new modern male and female toilet, but also the changing places facility for the centre of town. I think it's important that there are a good set of public toilets in every town. I think it'd be important that those are delivered, and echo colleagues' comments around Hill Place Farm and protecting and formalising green space in our towns is really important, and that will help as well as a result of how some of that funding has been structured. So all very welcome there. I'll take colleagues to the recommendations that are set out on page 7. It's the recommendations that the variations in the capital programme, as slightly tweaked by Mr Stewart in his introduction, are considered, which we've done, and to recommend to council. So those are the recommendations, the variations in paragraph 17 in accordance with council's financial procedure rule B3. If I could ask members to vote on those recommendations, please. The yes and no voting buttons will come up on your screens. Thank you. The vote is concluded and everyone has voted in favour of the recommendation, so that is agreed. Thank you. So we'll turn now to item 6 on our agenda, which is the Centre for Outdoor Sports feasibility study, and I'll turn to Rob Anderton to introduce this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As members will know, the Northern Arc is due to deliver over 80 hectares of new green space to the north of Burgess Hill, and 9 hectares of that is going to be specifically allocated to a new Centre for Outdoor Sports. The land for that Centre for Outdoor Sports is going to be transferred to the council, along with a capital set-up sum and a commuted sum for ongoing maintenance. Last year, we appointed consultants to carry out an initial feasibility study, undertaking a detailed review of all existing policy documents as they related to outdoor sport, and to engage with key stakeholders and develop an indicative site layout. The study also provided a high-level cost estimate for the building of the scheme, indicative operating costs, and proposals around procurement in respect of the next phases of the work, as well as the construction of the facility and its ongoing management. This report summarises the findings of that study and seeks approval to procure the services of a consultant to take this project to the next stage, which will involve further detailed consultation with local stakeholders and also the plans and the costings alongside the future operational model, further refined in preparation for construction within the next couple of years. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr Anderton, for that introduction. Colleagues, I'll open the floor to members. Councillor Buss is the portfolio holder. Do you want to go?
Thank you, Chairman. Very pleased to see this report come forward. Obviously, a considerable amount of work already done in the feasibility study, and thank you to officers for all the work done there. And indeed, it's a very exciting project to be able to have modern, fit-for-purpose sports facilities being built as part of a council project. Obviously, a lot of work's already done in terms of consulting with the national bodies and local schools, and we've got the plain pitch strategy, which has informed some of the work. But I obviously pick up on the report that at the moment, obviously everything's indicative, so we're very pleased to know that 9 hectares is going to be able to deliver some great sports facilities that I know will be well used by people across Mid-Sussex. Also conscious that we've got a lot of sports clubs in Burgess Hill and a lot of sports to try to satisfy, and we're never going to be able to meet every sports club's aspirations through that site, but I'm very keen that we press on with the engagement with the sports clubs to understand and confirm their aspirations, and then to work with officers and the consultants to try to maximise the benefits of what the Centre for Outdoor Sports can offer to those sports which will be supported there, but equally as well just to try to understand better some of the aspirations of other clubs and sports, and see how we might be able to meet those too, so that and properly plan a route through for most of the sports clubs in Burgess Hill, so that they've all got some certainty as to the future. Clearly, I know we've got the exempt papers, it's a very substantial cost to the council, so we want to get it right. But it's great that we know that we've got a lot of the finances can be in place, and we've just got to obviously work to try to make sure that what we do meets the needs of our communities. So I have written to the sports clubs in the area already, and I've had many encouraging emails back from clubs who are looking to consult, and so we will be kicking off that process in the next few weeks and seeking to start the work on how we might be able to support them meet their aspirations. But it's a very exciting project, and I look forward to being able to report back to council with next steps. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Bassey. Echo your comments entirely. Councillor Salisbury.
Thank you, Chairman. Could there be anything more exciting than a project like this? And aren't we fortunate in the district that as a result of the new development, we're able to get hold of a piece of land to put in a major sporting centre, albeit a very odd shape to try and build sports pitches on, with the additional complication of hedges and trees, which consultants have had a look at working around. I'll try and ignore the indicative drawings at the back, because I'm sure as we move forward on this, a different plan will emerge. And the only thing I'd like to note is that looking at the stakeholders that were consulted, I just wonder if the list was extensive enough at that stage of the feasibility study, in that I don't see athletics very well represented, even though in the report the town council did mention an all-weather running track, other athletics facilities as well. And I know it's going to be very difficult to squeeze everything in, but I think they should be looked at. And I think there are other outdoor activities such as netball and so on. I'd just like to make sure that the council covers off on all of those before we put this whole thing to bed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Salisbury. Before I turn to Mr Anderton, I know that Councillor Bassey has written to the local clubs, including the running club, to ensure that engagement with them is undertaken. But I'll come to Mr Anderton as well for any other comments.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So absolutely, we'll be engaging thoroughly with all the local clubs in the next phase of the works. In terms of athletics, one of the things that came through quite strongly in the playing pitch study and in the work that the sports consultancy have done to date is that there are a number of other plans in the pipeline in the local vicinity that may see athletics facilities come forward. And so we're going to need to keep a watchful eye on those over the next year, 18 months, so that we don't end up duplicating effort that's already in train, perhaps with one of the local schools, perhaps the new school within the Northern Art Development, for example. There are a number of things that may well bring forward athletics facilities. And so we want to make sure that, I guess it's like a bit of a jigsaw really, isn't it? All these different pieces that we've got to keep an eye on. It's an ever-moving feast. And what we're going to seek to do is to provide the best mix of facilities to fill the gaps once we've got a clearer idea of what else is coming forward.
It's really helpful, and this work will be able to be agile enough to respond to where there's any concerns about delivery elsewhere, because of course, some of those plans might not come forward, so we'll be able to address that during the course of this work. That's correct, isn't it?
My sentiments and comments actually pretty much match Councillor Salisbury's. It's such an exciting project. It's fantastic. We know there's going to be demand because there's participation rates in Burgess Hill in particular, but across mid-Sussex are way above national average. So I think it's a fantastically exciting thing, and I welcome it and welcome moving forward and the recommendations. In the last exchange we've had, I was very glad to hear that we are looking at being flexible, because one of the concerns I have, in fact I might put you on the spot and ask the question, is sometimes governing bodies have a different view of what is best than the local clubs. Will the local clubs get a fair crack at the whip?
So yeah, At the first phase of the works, obviously, we needed to think about who we targeted for our consultation. We spoke to the national governing bodies, we spoke to the local schools who we knew had plans, we spoke to Places Leisure, who are obviously our local operator, just to get a sense of the general feeling as to what needed to be delivered. There was an expectation, I guess, that those national governing bodies would speak to the local clubs. Some have, some perhaps haven't. And so absolutely the next phase of the works, we will be not only engaging with the national governing bodies, but also with the individual clubs themselves where they want to get involved in the project.
Councillor Demir.
Thank you, thank you. Actually, I think people have said what I was going to say. This is such good news for us. As Councillor Salisbury said, we do need to engage with basketball, netball, etc., as well. And certainly on a local level, I think would be quite a good idea. I will certainly be finding my football boots. I'm wondering if, I'm sure we probably don't need, but they will correct me if I'm wrong, another cricket pitch, because they all are, who am I, but when we talk to them. But I know we talked about it earlier, indoor nets, one would hope wouldn't be an optional facility, but something that we could offer to the whole district. But well done, everyone. This is brilliant, and look forward to more news.
Do you want to pick up the comment about the nets, Mr. Hampton?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Indoor nets was something that was identified in the playing pitch study, absolutely. The work that we've done to date suggests that perhaps the Centre for Outdoor Sports wouldn't be the right place for that, but that it's something we should potentially look at in terms of our existing built facilities and whether it's something we can accommodate, for example, in one of our centres.
Thank you. And Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chairman. First, pleased to hear that individual clubs, as well as the sort of sports federated bodies and so on, will be consulted on. And I think that consultation will need to continue throughout the development centre. And I'm really pleased to hear the use of the word agile and also the word flexible, because sports do change over time and some sports become less popular and others become more popular. And there's the issue of athletics and, of course, all the other activities that go with athletics. And that consultation obviously has to continue throughout. And I think it's important to put this into context. And paragraph 25 actually does that, where it talks about the fact that the outdoor sports facility is supported by some key strategic documents, the district plan, the Burgess Hill town-wide strategy, which was put together in 2011. That's how long this has been going on. The Burgess Hill neighbourhood plan, 2015, the playing pitch strategy, 2019, and the local football facility plan, 2021. So this project is underpinned by an awful lot of strategic study and documentation. And I think that is really important for Burgess Hill as a town and for the wider district as well. And this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, actually, for a council like this to be developing a facility like this, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
Councillor Webster. And I think my reflection is that we quite often have conversations with residents and with communities where people make the comments that new developments have got to come with infrastructure. And I think this is a really good example of where that is happening. This is, I think, the biggest investment in sports in our district since the Triangle opened in the 1990s. About 30 years, biggest project being delivered. And I look at other districts and I don't see these kind of projects happening amongst many of our neighbours. So I think this is a really good thing that will serve Burgess Hill and I'm sure to say much of the wider district as well, which will be really, really positive. I'm reassured by what I've heard in terms of the work to engage with the local groups over the coming months. I know Councillor Belsey has kicked a lot of that off already, and I know that the project will continue to evolve as the picture becomes clearer and we slot together as many aspirations as we can within the constraints of the site and the available funding. And you know, very reassured by what Mr. Anderson said in terms of the timetable. This is a project that we're ready to get on with and get delivered. And I think if we can go from stage 1 feasibility study where we are now to the site being taken through master planning, consultation through planning, into design and construction and opening in just over 3 years, I think that would be a very positive thing indeed, and look forward to it being part of our community going forward from there. We're going to need to go into the exempt item before we go to the recommendations. So we need to formally consider whether to exclude the press and public from the meeting during consideration of the following items in accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the said act. So I formally propose that we do move into the closed session. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Belsey, thank you. And if I can ask members to just vote in favour of going into exempt session for the record, please. Is agreed, so we will move into exempt session and we'll wait for confirmation that the live stream has been temporarily paused. Thank you. So I'm advised we're back live again, and we're now back out into the open session, having considered the exam paper. Are there any further comments or questions anyone wants to raise following that, or are we okay to go to the recommendations? Go to the recommendations then, which are set out on page 19 of the papers. So we're recommended to agree phase 1 of the Centre for Outdoor Sport project from feasibility study as a foundation for the next steps, authorise the commencement of the next stage of the project, comprising the procurement of consultants to deliver phases 2, 3 and 4, and to prepare a funding bid to secure allocated section 106 funding to finance the work. And if I can ask members to use the voting buttons on the screen, please, to indicate. Thank you. Let's double check that everyone has voted. Thank you. All votes have now been recorded, and I can confirm that is unanimously agreed. So that then brings us to the end of this Cabinet meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance, and I'll close the meeting at 4:45.